Who has the second best center in the NBA going into next year? Because let's be honest, we already know who number one is, right? Today, we're wrapping up this series of ranking all the starters from every team at all the positions across the NBA. And like those other videos that I've made, this isn't just about talent and performance. It's also me taking a guess at how good I believe their front office feels about their guy going into next season in particular. Like, subscribe, and let's get into it. At number 30, I've got Yves Missi from the New Orleans Pelicans. Is Missi going to start at center for the Pelicans? Maybe Daniel Theis? Center is just a big question mark for the Pels, kind of all around, so that's why they're in this spot. For 29, I've got Kevon Looney with the Golden State Warriors. Looney has had moments for the Warriors, but he was a byproduct of the team's success. Now that the team is fading, he's still a starting caliber center in the league, but that's kind of about it. At 28, how about Mark Williams with the Charlotte Hornets? Mark Williams looked good for the Hornets for a minute last year. And by a minute, I mean 19 games, because that's all he played. But hey, the Hornets need stuff to be excited about, and Mark Williams could fit that bill. For 27, I'm going Jakob Poeltl with the Raptors. Poeltl's a solid starting center in the NBA, and he has been for about 6 years. But he's also missed a lot of time and was a weird choice by the Raptors to give up real draft capital to get him, while in the same breath trading away guys like OG Anunoby and Pascal Siakam. At 26, Nikola Vucevic with the Bulls. Gone are the days of Vooch being a stretch 5 giving you 20 and 11 a night. Here are the days of sub 50% shooting, 30% from 3, and really bad defense. But he can still be 18 and 10 even if it's less efficient. At 25, Jusuf Nurkic with the Suns. Similar to Vooch, gone are the days of Nurkic being a solid 15 and 10, and he's definitely never getting Defensive Player of the Year votes again. But he'll have nights that the Suns really need him, and he can still be productive in spurts. At 24, I've got Clint Capella with the Atlanta Hawks. Capella isn't quite on the downswing that those other guys are. He can still be effective as a rim runner, and there's a reason that Okongwu hasn't taken over his starting job yet. But eventually, patience is going to run out there, and this seems like the year that Atlanta might be leaning into their youth movement. I think if they could trade Capella, he'd already be gone. At 23, I've got Jalen Duren with the Pistons. Detroit basketball was a dumpster fire last year, but there are some bright spots. And I don't mean from flames. Jalen Duren is one of those bright spots, and now they no longer have a collection of center reclamation projects on their roster, so nobody should be getting in his way of getting the reps that he needs to develop. At 22, John Collins from the Jazz. The Jazz seem to have picked Collins over Kessler last year, and Kessler's presence in summer league suggests that that hasn't changed. But hey, I've been wrong many times, and wouldn't be shocked to be wrong again on this. But if I'm right, John Collins, despite his perpetual existence in trade rumors, is a pretty useful big in the modern NBA, capable of both rim running and stretching the floor. His effective field goal percentage last year was nearly 60%, despite the fact that 30% of his shot attempts were from beyond the arc. For 21, I'm going Derek Lively with the Mavs. He's a leap candidate for sure. I think Lively could jump up this list quite a bit next year if things were to break right. The challenge I'm having here is that I'm not even 100% sure that he's starting. The Mavs kind of started their run last year when they replaced him with Gafford. And I would think that the playoffs would have swung them back in the Lively direction, but the two are probably the biggest timeshare at the position in the league, which could temper the expectations on Lively's growth and productivity. At 20, I've got Ivica Zubac from the Clippers. Zubac got paid this summer. His numbers won't wow you, but he's kind of just the poster child for what a solid, below-the-arc big man looks like in 2024. He also might be leaned on a little bit more in the absence of Paul George next year, so I think he's going to be good. At 19, I'm going to go with Mitchell Robinson from the Knicks. If you were picking teams, you might take Zubac ahead of Robinson, but I think the difference between them for me is that Robinson has an elite skill. He's an absolute monster on the offensive glass, which fits perfectly into the identity of the Knicks team that he plays for. He's also in line for a role upgrade with Hartenstein out of town if his body can handle it. For 18, how about DeAndre Ayton in Portland? Ayton should be dominating in Portland. He's just not. It sure seems like he's perfectly content to put in his 40 hours, collect his absolutely absurdly massive paycheck, and just go home every day. At 17, Nick Claxton from the Nets. I might be overrating Claxton here simply because he's the best player on his team and they have no interest in winning games, so he should be able to put up pretty massive numbers next year. At 16, I'm going to go with Jonas Valanciunas from the Washington Wizards. Why did Jonas Valanciunas sign in Washington? Why? I don't understand. He isn't the ideal modern big, but he's still been effective, and he only got like $10 million a year, which wasn't even full non-taxpayer MLE money. I have to imagine he could have gotten similar, if not identical, money on a better team. But alas, here we are. For 15, I'm going to go with Wendell Carter Jr. in Orlando. I got this feeling that Wendell Carter's in for a bounce back year for the Magic. He's been shooting 35% on over 3 threes a game since he got in Orlando, and his team really needs that shooting. I envision them with Franz running a point forward, playing a two-man game with Paolo, and then just spraying it out to KCP, Suggs, and Carter behind the three-point line. I am personally pretty high on the Magic next year. At 14, I've got Brook Lopez with the Bucks. Lopez probably isn't the Defensive Player of the Year candidate that plays a 7-foot shooting guard going into next year, which will be his age 36 season. But he's not exactly washed either. In a down year last year, he blocked 2.5 shots a game while shooting over 36% from 3. At 13, how about Miles Turner from the Pacers? Miles Turner should be the Brook Lopez in Indy, except he's 8 years younger and is now playing with a legit star power forward in Pascal Siakam. But unlike when he shared the floor with Sabonis, they aren't super redundant, and Tyrese Halliburton is one of the best distributors in basketball. Turner's life should be pretty easy next year. At 12, I've got Alperen Şengün with the Rockets. The biggest question for Şengün is defense. If he can find a way to be competent on that end, he's a top 5 center candidate. The way he's able to be an offensive hub like a mini Jokic after only 3 years in the league is nothing short of remarkable. If you can't tell, I'm super high on Şengün. For number 11, I've got Jarrett Allen with the Cleveland Cavs. I think Jarrett Allen is one of the most underrated players in the NBA. Not only is he a solid 15-10 on nearly 65% shooting from the floor as a Cavalier, he's also got some better advanced metrics like box plus minus and value over replacement than some more respected centers like Jaren Jackson Jr. and Rudy Gobert over the past couple years. But I think the biggest thing is his effectiveness alongside Donovan Mitchell in that two-man game, and most of the Cavs' 2 and 3 best player combo lineups have Jarrett Allen in them. He's just really, really important for their team. I'm kicking off the top 10 with Chet Holmgren in OKC. Leap candidate alert. What a rookie season Chet had. Probably the rookie of the year in just about any other year. He just happened to come into the league at the same time as Wemby. I'm also really interested to see what the plan is with Hartenstein. I think one of the biggest factors in their team's success last year was Chet actually playing center. So I would want to keep him doing that as much as possible, but that was a lot of money to pay for a backup center. But if there's one weakness in Chet's game so far, it's been rebounding, and Hartenstein shores that up in a big way. For number 9, I've got Jaren Jackson Jr. with the Memphis Grizzlies. With Ja coming back along with the rest of his fellow Grizzly core hopefully being healthy too, Jaren Jackson Jr. should be able to build on some of the offensive growth that we saw after playing a more predominant role last year, while also taking a bit of a step back on that end and conserving some energy to get back to being the defensive force that he was when he won Defensive Player of the Year. If you're a Grizzlies fan, you're hoping for that perfect balance of the two. For number 8, I've got Domantas Sabonis with the Kings. Sabonis has led the NBA in rebounding 2 years in a row now. He's also good for about 20 points a night like clockwork. He works well as a hub in the short roll, playing off of De'Aaron Fox. If the guy could defend, he'd be even higher on this list for sure. At number 7, I've got Bam Adebayo with the Heat. While the rebounding numbers aren't as flashy as Sabonis, Bam definitely can defend and score 20 a night, and do some facilitating, and possibly, most importantly, his team is going to need him to. While the Kings added a third star, the Heat are running it back with another year older Jimmy Butler. If there was ever a time to see if Bam has another gear to reach, it's gonna be now. At number 6, give me Kristaps Porzingis with the Celtics. The original unicorn, I think, right? I don't remember that term being thrown around until he was drafted, but whatever, that's not really the important part of this. What is important is that he's a 7'3" rim protector who flirts with 50-40-85 shooting splits on real volume year in and year out. The only problem is availability. Otherwise, he's top 5 easy. So to kick off the top 5, give me Rudy Gobert with the Timberwolves. Despite how much Shaq hates on him, Rudy Gobert is as dominant of a defensive big as we've ever seen. Not like, hey, let's line up all the best centers in history and see where he ranks, but within the context of his peers and the opponents he actually plays real basketball against, he's been dominant. 4 Defensive Player of the Year awards, including last season, and he's finished top 5 in voting 4 other times for that award as well. He's also averaged a double-double 8 years in a row and shot 66% from the field last year. Does he look like an uncoordinated baby deer sometimes when he tries to Eurostep or make a post move? Yep. But he also anchors one of the best defenses in the league, and they're going to be good again next year. At number 4, I've got Victor Wembanyama from the Spurs. I think it's too soon to anoint Wemby the best center in the league crown, but I'm not ruling out the possibility that he could grow into that very, very soon. I was not drinking the Kool-Aid on the alien hype train coming into last year, and was pleasantly surprised with his durability more than anything. I knew he was going to put up numbers. The Spurs were terrible, but he far exceeded what I thought realistic expectations would have been, and with Chris Paul organizing their team next year, I think his first All-Star appearance is the absolute floor for Wemby if he stays healthy. At number 3, give me Anthony Davis with the Lakers. The Lakers disappointed last season, but it wasn't because of AD. 24.5 and 12.5 averages with 3.5 stocks was good for second-team All-NBA and first-team All-Defense. And while not reaching contender status, he was still competing night in and night out for a team that won 47 games and made the playoffs. 2 years ago, that same win total gave the Kings the 3 seed. The West was just a gauntlet last year, and I don't see it being any easier this year. So for number 2, I've got Joel Embiid with the Sixers. Embiid's getting a lot of credit for his MVP 2 years ago to keep this second spot among centers because playing 39 games last year really does worry me. It doesn't hurt that he can drop 70 in a game. He's obviously dominant when he plays in the regular season, but I'd be lying if I said I wasn't worried that the end is near for a guy who is as big as he is with the mileage on his legs that have always been a concern, and now he's 30. So the most shocking number 1 of all time is Nikola Jokic with the Nuggets. 3 of the last 4 MVPs. Enough said. It's no longer fair to really compare Jokic to his peers in the league. He's reached the point of asking just where he falls historically. I'm also not convinced that he's not going to retire early and go be with his horses in the next 2 to 3 years. But until he does, just enjoy watching him play basketball because it's about as uniquely dominant as we've probably ever seen in the league, at least with our own 2 eyes. Okay, that's my list. How'd I do? Let me know in the comments, and while you're there, go ahead and like the video so that YouTube knows that it doesn't suck. And subscribe to the channel so that I know you want me to keep making them. And while you're waiting on me to make them, go ahead and watch one of these.